Battlefield 5, after a long and storied marketing campaign that made it unfathomably one of the most controversial games of the year, has finally released, and it's pretty damn good. Despite fears that the sequel was moving into Call of Duty territory, however, the latest installment is actually the most demanding yet, with the new attrition system and a heightened time to kill, making firefights even more intense and teamwork even more important. DICE's World War II shooter is a markedly different beast from its predecessor as well, and it can take some time to not only get used to the brand new gameplay features, but the classic staples that have been reworked. Fortunately, we've got a couple of essential pointers to make sure you get the most out of each and every match. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and this is Battlefield 5, 12 tips and tricks the game doesn't tell you. Number 12. You can swap out iron sights immediately and add a long scope to snipers. One of the most interesting decisions DICE have made with Battlefield 5 is to once again not allow players to customize their weapons with new grips, stocks, or magazines that alter their stats. However, each gun still comes with multiple options for sights, and most of them are thankfully available immediately. Likewise, there's a surprising amount of variety to these different scopes that awards you with more command over these weapons, even if it does feel a little bit odd to be running around World War II with a holographic sight that I am sure is period authentic, but whatever. At least it's better than those cumbersome iron sights that you can't see bollocks out of. Also, it's initially a little off-putting to equip a sniper rifle only to find that it comes preloaded with a short scope that seems to go against the entire point of the class. Fortunately, you can immediately swap this out for a longer scope that makes nailing headshots across Battlefield 5's massive maps that bit easier. Number 11. You can spawn on squad members even if a vehicle is full. Squad play is more important than ever in Battlefield 5, what with teammates being able to revive each other now, even if they're not a medic, and the squad leader being able to call in bombing runs and supply drops. More on those later. Thankfully, in order to keep players sticking with their small team as much as possible, the developers have eliminated one of the series' most infuriating limitations. It's no secret that spawning on teammates always offers an advantage in multiplayer, but in previous titles it was impossible to spawn on a squad member if they were in a vehicle that didn't have any free spaces inside. In Battlefield 5, however, these teammates are no longer off limits, and if a vehicle is full, the game will simply spawn you outside of it, as it should have the past million games. It's a subtle change, but it's essential for getting back into the action that bit quicker. Number 10. Scavenge ammo of dead enemies. Battlefield 5's new attrition system is the sequel's biggest change, with players having far less ammo and health than in previous titles. Consequently, if you're not aware of conserving bullets, you can completely run out after one or two heated firefights, leaving you with only a sidearm until somebody is graceful enough to throw a supply pack in your face or you find a spot to build one. However, DICE have attempted to make this limitation as painless as possible, and you can actually grab ammo off fallen enemies that are playing the same class as you. Keep an eye on the ground after a firefight, and there may be a little ammo symbol that you can run over to and pick up so you're resupplied for the next encounter. It does leave you open for a second to incoming fire, but it sure is more effective than hammering the need ammo prompt until one of your big dumb teammates finally gets the memo. Number 9. Use supply drops and bombing runs for easy XP. DICE have spent years trying to give squad leaders more options and more power in order to promote players sticking together, and this time around they've implemented a points-based system whereby working together accrues currency that can be used to call in defensive and offensive supplies. Hitting the front bumpers on the controller, yeah, I'm a console scrub, I'm really sorry, will bring up a menu allowing you to call in resupply crates relatively cheap or order in a bombing run if you saved up enough over the course of a match. While both of these can help your team inch that little bit closer to victory, the latter in particular can be devastating if you place it down on an objective swarming with enemies. You also get easy experience points for calling them in as well, so you should never finish a game with some of this requisition left to spend. Number 8. The medic smoke grenade will help you revive in peace. Of all the changes made to the classes between Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, it's perhaps the medic which has been impacted the most. The biggest alteration is that revives are no longer instant, but accomplished through an animation, while squad members can now revive each other anytime they want, regardless of their class. However, that change has meant that the medic's revive syringe is no longer tied to a gadget slot. That has been replaced by a smoke grenade launcher, which is an incredibly useful tool, both offensively and defensively. First and foremost, though, it makes reviving players an absolute dream. Having to engage in an animation to pick up a teammate can lead to you getting shot in the back, so you want to fire off one of those babies next to them first, which will render you virtually invisible while you conduct your doctorly duties. Number 7. Recon classes are essential for spotting. In a bid to make gameplay more in the moment and not focused entirely on the UI, DICE have all but removed the classic spotting mechanic in Battlefield 5. In previous games, you could tag an enemy with a marker which would alert teammates to their position and even follow them behind cover, although this was nerfed over the course of one's life cycle. Now, however, most classes don't have the ability to tag the enemy in the same way. The spot button has been replaced with a general marker that simply highlights the area where you last saw an enemy, but doesn't follow them at all. The feature hasn't been taken out entirely though, but instead bundled into the Recon class. Hitting enemies with sniper rifles or using the spotting scope will still tag them in the classic way, and as long as they remain in your line of sight, they'll be visible to the rest of your team to finish off. Number 6. You can always grab a ledge. Look, there's nothing worse than accidentally falling to your death in a multiplayer shooter. Thinking you can jump across a gap with visions in your head of making it to the other side, flanking 5 enemies and taking them all out with a quick burst of an SMG has resulted in so many unnecessary deaths. Deaths that Battlefield 5 has tried its best to make sure never happen again. Constantly tweaking the already fluid movement system, you can now grab onto ledges by holding the jump button near one to get to either higher or lower ground, or to save yourself after a botched leap. With this in mind, traversing Battlefield 5's maps becomes almost Mirror's Edge-esque, as you use the environment to imaginatively get around the most vertical parts of each area. Number 5. You can finally throw grenades back. One of the most infuriating parts of Battlefield 1 was the incessant grenade spam. If you weren't horrifically suffocating thanks to a gas grenade or having to stop, drop and roll because someone tossed an incendiary your way, enemies were chucking tank grenades into bottlenecks, leaving you to just watch and sit there as the explosive blew up in your face. It wasn't good. Thankfully, not only has Battlefield 5 reduced the effectiveness of grenades across the board, they finally added the ability for you to throw them back if you're quick enough. And yeah, even though Call of Duty 4 introduced this feature literally a decade ago, it's still relieving to see DICE embrace it, as it gives you more options when a grenade is thrown into the room, rather than just watching with your pants around your ankles as it detonates in your face and in your private parts. Number 4. Headshots boost damage. Headshot damage has always been present in Battlefield games, and while that's most obvious in the sniper rifles, which become one-hit kill machines, the damage multiplier actually affects every weapon, and the latest sequel has made this feature even more explicit. Time to kill is already extremely quick in EA's release, but it can be sped up even more by aiming for the enemy's head. I know that sounds obvious, but seriously, I didn't know until this game that was the case. And you'll know if you've shot them in the critical areas, the hit marker will turn orange, which lets you know that you've inflicted more damage and are in for a guaranteed kill if you just keep going. Again, it's a subtle inclusion, but it can mean the difference between taking someone down in 2 shots or 3 when you're in the heat of the moment. Number 3. The difference between auto and manual healing. Unlike in previous releases, you don't simply recover HP by jumping into cover in Battlefield 5, but instead have to manually heal by pressing up and using the 1 health pack every player gets when they spawn. However, there is still automatic healing to an extent. When you've taken damage, you can check how much HP you have at the bottom of the screen, and you may notice a dark red section along with the bright red one that represents your remaining vitality. It's a little confusing, I will admit, but this darker amount is actually how much you can regenerate by simply waiting and jumping into cover. Consequently, you don't always have to use the rare pack of bandages you spawn with after your first firefight. If there's enough dark red health left, it might be better saving that healing item for when you need a bigger and quicker boost. Number 2, crouch sprinting is your friend. You might not have even realized you were doing it, but sprinting while crouching is one of the biggest new additions to your moveset in Battlefield 5. It is easy to completely overlook though, as visually, crouch sprinting doesn't look all that different from regular sprinting except from it being slightly slower. As subtle as the differences between the two are though, the ability to keep low and still rush forward is essential in taking some of the busier objectives without becoming an easy moving target. Of course, doing so will make your character a little more difficult to control, so you can't just spend every second of every match running around with your knees up to your chin. It is a welcome addition to be aware of though, and thanks to this feature, Battlefield 5 is now the best Gears of War game out there at the moment. Yep, I said it, there we go. Number 1, dynamite and grenades can be detonated with bullets. While DICE have attempted to balance explosives in Battlefield 5 more fairly, they have upped the ways you can actually interact with them. For instance, you can now shoot grenades before they detonate to speed the process up, which, if you're quick enough, can transform them into insta-killing impact grenades. I am absolutely never quick enough to do that, but say you throw one into a room and don't want to wait for the enemies to scamper before it goes off, you can shoot it to make sure the targets are taken out straight away. Likewise, if you think of yourself as something of a quick draw expert, which I do, you can detonate an incoming grenade while it's in the air, hopefully taking out the player who threw it in the process. The same tactic works for other explosives as well, including dynamite. This sticky bomb is one of the most difficult to control but most powerful gadgets in the sequel, and you can take advantage of an enemy accidentally placing one too close to them by shooting it and sending them to an unfortunate fiery end. So that's our list. I don't know what you guys thought of Battlefield 5 down in the comments below. Are you enjoying it? And did these tips help you at all? Or did you already know them because you're an advanced player and have been kicking my ass on the battlefield? Either way, can you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh, you've been watching WhatCulture, and I guess I'll see you on the battlefield. Bye.